Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, Aaron, and Kevin are sitting down once again and talking about when reality does not match our expectations. That can bring with it a number of frustrations. It can make us yearn for something different than what we have. So where is God in all of that, and how do we end up finding contentment when things just basically aren't going our way? We flesh all that out in this conversation, and so as always, we really hope you enjoy it. Hey, Kevin.
Morning, Aaron.
Good morning. Good morning. You know, I just brewed this cup of coffee, and I have troubles with our little I don't know, it's a fake Keurig machine here, but same deal with the little pods, you know. Sometimes I forget to put a mug underneath it and I push all the buttons and then coffee just spills everywhere. Mm-hmm. But more often I put my mug under and then I just push brew, and then it just, if there was an old pod in there, it just brews like half yellowy coffee. Mm-hmm. Today there was no pod at all. And so I just brewed hot water into my mug. Oh, yeah. And
stuck a tea bag in there?
Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like. But it was good because the bottom of my mug was super like caked with coffee. So a little hot water, a little swished around and dumped out, basically cleaned it, and then I brewed a fresh cup of coffee. So, you know, sometimes that's how it goes, right? You got your expectations for how things will be, and then sometimes it just doesn't pan out.
That's right. That's why I'm drinking out of a water bottle today. I don't even have a mug.
Oh man, why are you drinking water today?
Well, water's good for you. Aquafina did a big drink more water as a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember those commercials. They really made an impact on me.
Did they?
So I'm trying to drink more water.
I drink a lot of water. Yeah. I love water.
Me too. Do you like the flavor of water?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Some people say there's no flavor, but I disagree.
Well, some people say that the flavor is bad even. And I'm like, what? I love water. So
yeah,
sometimes like I try not to be, I don't know what the word would be, choosy about my water. Like I just want to be able to drink whatever water. So
tap.
So I'm not like I'll drink filtered water, but I'll drink tap water. I'll drink hose water. I'll drink whatever. Like, I still remember I was a counselor at a summer camp one summer, and it was so hot, and I probably had like 9, 10, 11-year-old like campers or whatever, and we were hiking out somewhere. We were a long ways away. The kids were supposed to have water bottles, and this one kid had drunk all of his water. And he was complaining about how thirsty he was, and so I offered him some more water or whatever, and he goes, "Oh no, I only drink Culligan water," like from the I don't know, like the water filter things and stuff. So no. I was like, "Well, what water have you been drinking this whole time? You know, that you've been at camp?" And I was like, "Just kid, you got to drink water. Like you can't wait for your go home and get your fancy water." So.
Expectations, Culligan water.
Yeah, right? Yeah. This tap water's just not doing it. So you came in a little hot today. You look
my hair's extra spiky, I think.
A little flushed. Are you sweaty?
Oh, dude, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my wife and I and Lily, our child, moved into a new house. And baby to be, baby boy, yes. If you didn't know. We moved into a new house, 2 days ago?
3
days? Yeah, right, yeah. Last Saturday. And, so kind of adjusting to life on the ranch. It's a 1-story ranch, so unfinished basement. So this morning, we got big snow last night. Yeah. Did you guys have a lot of snow over in your area? We had a bunch.
Like 6 inches? I don't know.
The snow was going over the top of my snowblower at parts.
Huh.
It was insane.
Just probably from the wind, too.
Just from the wind, maybe. And then also the fact that, so we bought the house, I guess a week and like 10 days ago.
Okay.
And hasn't been blown. Well, no, it was blown once.
Okay.
Yeah, it was blown once before we moved in, so we must have really got a lot of snow. But anyways, yeah, so yeah, there's been some new things at the house. Things that you just don't expect. For instance,
what did you expect? Well, no, let you do your for instance.
Well, yeah. So I mean, here's one thing I expected this morning anyway. When we bought the house, they left the snowblower with it, and the guy even gave me like a little tutorial with it.
Okay.
Right. But I mean, like the way tutorials go for me typically is someone does all this stuff real fast, and I say, yeah, I think I got it.
Right.
You know. And then you go out to do it, and you're like, oh crud, how's this go again? So I had to pull up a tutorial on YouTube
just to start it.
To start the snowblower. I tried first, but it failed, or I failed. So then I had to run back to the house, get my phone, run back over, do a tutorial. Okay, get it on, got it on. And then I'm going, going out, trucking down the driveways. This is great. Go to turn it's got one of those motorized swivels, which is like, ooh, that's pretty slick, because mine doesn't have that. To crank my old other one. So I go to use the motorized thing, and that doesn't move at all. Not a slice. But when he did the tutorial, he swung that thing left and right. So I'm like messing with buttons. I'm like, why is this not? But it wouldn't. And then there's like a weird springy hook thing that was kind of close to the swivel. So I just used that as a bungee cord essentially to hook the thing to make it stay to the right. Because it wouldn't stay as I went down. It would just if you're listening, my hand is making a snow blow function, and it's the thing. Like
a sprinkler. It would just do like a sprinkler.
Exactly. So it's like, gosh, this is just frustrating. So there's that. Yeah, no, that's just part of this morning. Anyways, yeah, so I'm flush because I got done snow blowing, and I was sweating buckets, man. Yeah.
And they got chickens.
Yeah, then we got chickens. Yep. So that was in the contract when we were buying the house. They said, there's 19 chickens, negotiable.
Okay.
We didn't negotiate anything. We just said, look, if you're not going to take the chickens, we'll take them.
Okay.
Because we wanted to have chickens eventually. Yeah. Not really right now.
Yeah.
But apparently they didn't want to, and this makes sense, move 19 chickens across the country.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So they left them, which is great. So we have chickens now. Yeah. And that's also interesting.
Yeah.
And I got a verbal tutorial on the chickens. Okay. Not so much like a demonstration. Yeah. So then you have an idea how the chickens would go.
Yeah.
Which I thought, all these things will just fear you and love you,
Okay.
Right? As a human. Yeah. They'll say you're the best, but also we'll keep our distance so that you can collect our eggs and change our water and give us food.
Yeah, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. We are here to serve you, human overlord. And now then you get in and they're like, dude, these chickens are barking back and forth. And who knows what they're saying. Conspiring for all I know.
Oh, man.
And then they come bobbing their heads near you, and they start pecking your boots, and they start pecking your legs. And they're like, back, chickens, back.
Those are love pecks. That's what they call like a little kiss a peck.
Roosters. I don't know. There's a different word for Bruce's pecks. They're not love pecks. What would you call an angry peck?
I don't want to say.
Sounds good. But man, yeah. So they're growing on me. I really actually do. I do like the chickens. I was honestly afraid of them, but I had very little animal interaction as a child. So that's come along. Yeah, and then then you just get in your house too, and there hasn't been too many things that were surprises, but we have had some little critters crawling around.
Oh man.
Very little bugs.
Yeah.
I hear there are also larger critters in the pole barn.
Huh.
But so we're trying to be conscious of leaving food out because there's some ants getting around, and we're trying to kind of squash that figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
Before it gets.
Oh man.
So
obviously, I bet the house, chickens, everything in general, probably a great blessing.
Oh yeah.
Right. Just a great blessing from God. We're super happy for you guys. But it's interesting, because I preached the sermon on Sunday about oftentimes our reality doesn't match our expectations for things, right? And I didn't think about it till I was actually preaching it, but I had like I was giving just quick examples of like things when our reality doesn't match our expectations. And one of the things that I thought about was like when I was writing was like, oh, you buy a bigger house and you think it's going to be a nice blessing, and then it turns out that, you know, with a bigger house come bigger problems and bigger cleaning projects and bigger expenses and more room just to store stuff that you don't really need. And I like when I was preaching that, I was like, for the first service, I was thinking, oh shoot, like Molly and Kevin just moved into their new house yesterday. Hopefully they're like,
we didn't take it as a shot.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully you just know the reality of like, yeah, we know like it's gonna be more, right? I mean, it's a great blessing, but nothing's perfect, right? I mean, I think that's I don't know why. Like in our human experience, we just have this. I don't know. We always long for something that we don't have, or think that the way that somebody else's life is must be so much better, or whatever. You know,
almost like an ingrained sense of like the way things should be.
Yeah.
But like then like our realities are so often so far from that, and it's so like it. I mean, in my experience of all these things, it's because you have like big dreams for your life or expectations. I think of even getting into a marriage.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I was getting married to Molly, I had all these thoughts about how it's gonna be. You know, just love all the time. You know, just.
Well, that was another example I gave in my sermon about like little annoyances you had with your fiance that you just think will go away. Oh man, I would like, you know, when you're preaching and you see all the people. There were so many like spouses turning and elbowing each other and stuff like.
I know. I reached my arm around Molly and gave her like a little, and then I told her, I was like, I'm speaking for myself, of course.
Of course. I thought that when you put a ring on my finger, I would change, but nope.
Oh man, but yeah, it's so true. Like, there's all these things we have, kind of high expectations and hopes and dreams, and it's kind of, I mean, in some sense, it's actually helpful for us to have that, right?
Oh, yeah, it's not bad at all.
Like, it gives us something to aspire towards and to shoot for.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what even like hope is. I don't know. I think that's what hope is. Like, we hope for, we yearn, we long for these better days, for, you know, the promises of God to be fulfilled. I mean, all that stuff. Like, so yeah, it's not bad at all. Yeah. But I think we can just say plain and simple. Again, like nothing's perfect. And we just need to be reminded of that. And so it's the reversal then is, well, how do we find God in the situation where we are? How do we find contentment where we are? I didn't say it in my sermon, but I used the phrase, like people oftentimes say, like, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And what we find out oftentimes is like the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. I saw some other phrases when I was looking that up. Like a lot of people then take another spin on it and say, the grass is always greener where you water it. You know, so it's sort of like that. Well, if I am where I am and I tend to it and care for it, you know, maybe that will bring contentment where I am or something.
Sure.
So,
or I have the capacity to influence my circumstances to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of that, like, that whole theme or that whole idea came about through where we're at in the story. Chapter 19 was this return of the exiles from Babylon, where they were persecuted, where they were dispersed, where they didn't have, you know, any centralized worship. We probably get the sense that in people's homes, they must have still been having some sort of, you know, raising up the next generations in the faith, because there's still a lot of people who seem to understand and remember Jerusalem and the sacrificial system and worship life and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there must have been some of that happening somehow in exile. But anyways, they're returning to Jerusalem, and as they're returning to Jerusalem, they have, we get the sense that they know and remember some of the prophecies, like from Jeremiah and from Ezekiel, these prophecies about like the restored Israel and the restoration of the temple, and these beautiful images. You can look at Jeremiah 31, for example, to get all of that. And so they're going back with this like great excitement. There's old people who had lived in Jerusalem when they were kids, were taken into exile, and now they're going back, and I think they've got a big expectation of what will be. But then there's young people that were born in exile that never knew Jerusalem. They've only heard the stories, and so it's like super exciting. And then they go back, and it's like, oh man, it's just rubble. They rebuild a temple foundation, but it's so much smaller than what was there before. There's people living in the land that's that oppose them, and they're threatened by these returning Jews who are going to rebuild. You know, that like, for the last 70 years they've lived there, and so it's like, well, what's the deal? You know, who said you could come back? So there's all this stuff they got to deal with, and I mean, that's kind of the repeating theme, like throughout Ezra and Nehemiah, where actually we were doing this podcast even last summer when we were preaching through Ezra and Nehemiah with rubble restoration, that sermon series that we did. And so there's all these there's these movements in these books where like expectations are built up and then it just drops. Expectations are built up and then it drops. Expectations are built up and then it drops. And so that's just kind of a repeating theme throughout Ezra and Nehemiah. Like, yeah, reality just doesn't match the expectations, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of the context of where we're at. And yeah, so just, I don't know, dwelling on that too, like, I mean, I mentioned in my sermon, like, I've counseled a lot of people, and just recently had chatted with a number of people who are going through tough times in life, and every one of them said something to me of in this vein, like, I'm struggling to see where God is at in this situation. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't think things would be this way, right? This is what my expectation for how life was going to be. This is my reality. Yeah. And it's sort of like, well, I thought God was going to do something different, you know? Mm. So a lot of times we have these, in our human experience, expectations of God even, right? Like, yeah. I want God to answer my prayers. I want God to do something different. I want God's timing to be better. I want all these things. And it's like, well, God, you're not like not doing anything I want you to do, or it doesn't even seem like you're doing what you promised to do. So what gives, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've thought about that or how in your life, I don't know, whether it's snow blowing this morning and being frustrated and, you know, trying to do all this stuff around your house, but like, how do you, I don't know if cope is the right word, but like, how do you end up finding contentment when reality just keeps not matching expectations?
Oh man, well, yeah, like, so, I mean, today is a perfect example. Like, on the way here, even in my house, like coming in from outside, I was not in a good state, okay. You know? And that's tough to be around, right? And I forget where it's written, but, you know, like it says, maybe James, be angry and do not sin, you know? And because it's like, whoever's writing that knows, like, when you're angry, oh man, it is so easy, you know? Which is why they say in couples, like, if you're getting heated, take a time out, like wait 20 minutes, come back. They did a study on that, and like your blood pressure and everything goes down, conversation goes better. So, pro tip. But yeah, I mean, I literally had to say to Molly, well, like, she was just trying to, communicate something to me as I came in. And I said, just don't confuse my anger with me taking my anger out on you. Because like she could tell in my voice, like in my tone, like I was not in a good space, you know? And I was doing my very best not to channel that and direct it, you know, at people. And so, but in the car on the way here, like I'm still kind of in this, zone, but now I'm driving on Paradise Road, which I hear is a little sketchy, when the weather's bad. And so I'm discovering for myself how that plays out. And, but that was a great space for me just to be, by myself, turn off the radio, because I don't need that noise this morning, I'm just not there. But what I really need to do is take that and put it in God's hands. Because the reality is, we even have high expectations of ourselves.
Yeah.
And our hopes for ourselves and what we can accomplish, or how we will perform in our marriage or in our jobs or in all these things, or with a snowblower. And I think part of that sense comes because we're made in the image of God. His image is imprinted on us, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But we also have that old Adam, we call it, right? Our sinful nature, and that creeps up on us, and so that kind of constantly cuts down and damages maybe those expectations, or at least is part of our reality. It's part of us, and so I just have to take, or what was helpful for me anyway today in finding contentment is, lamenting for one, which the scriptures give us a great model for and paradigm for. When you're frustrated about something, you don't just have to shovel it down and slap on a smile and pretend that you're not. The psalmists will cry out to God and say, where are you? Yeah. Or why am I going through this? Please rescue me, deliver me. Or even ask the question. Sometimes we're frustrated and we don't even know why.
Yeah.
We haven't taken the time to water ourselves, and to figure out, how am I doing? What's going on? And so the psalmist will say, why are you downcast?
Yeah.
Oh, my soul. And so, I use this time on the way here to just say to God, God, well, first of all, thank you for being you. Which I think we always have to return back to. Sometimes we have we have an idea about what God is, and it's not true to His character. So we're going through tough times, and we're why God, you're not delivering? Well, we have a chicken-sized view, right?
Yeah.
And we start petting, at God.
Yeah.
And God's got a much bigger view and a much bigger plan for us all, and much more love than we probably sometimes even have the capacity to accept. He loves us more than we realize. So thank you, God, for being you, because when I was going through all these issues, especially with that stupid snowblower, man, what's the I don't know, one of the commandments, probably the second, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. Luther's explanation, you shall not curse, swear, do some other stuff.
Deceive.
I'm God, I know I did some of those this morning.
One of them's used satanic arts. Hopefully it wasn't that one.
I didn't resort to that. The chickens, I don't know what they're up to, but it's so I'm, and I did all that, and it's not like God swooped down and slapped me across the head.
Yeah.
How many times have I done that? That's just one thing. How many times have I sinned against God? Far more than I have kept track of. Yeah. I know that's for sure. And yet God is not up there tallying up the score.
Right.
So He's forgiven me. So it's I need to vent to God. I need to remember who He is. And then just ask for His help, ask for His Spirit. Because His Spirit works love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. His Spirit, not mine. So that's, for at least today, the one little episode, that's what was helpful for me today. Just driving in, resting in who God is, and taking Him up on His offer. He says, come to me if you're weary and burdened. So it's okay. Yeah. And here's all the stuff. I'm going to lay it on you, God, Yeah. So I don't know. That's been my piece. I don't know if
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking too, we need to remember that as Christian sinners, or sometimes we say as we have a dual reality that we live in, where we're saints. Mm-hmm. That means people who are saved, made holy by Jesus alone, and we're sinners. And it's and both of those are 100% our reality all of the time. Mm-hmm. It's not like sometimes when I'm doing real good, I'm more saint than sinner and stuff. It's just all the time, both of those are always there. And so that means that we actually have two realities that we're living in. And so like I think of it when in my human experience, in my own sin, when reality is not matching my expectations, either because of what's happening, the brokenness of the world is contributing to stuff, in it, or I'm not matching my own expectations for myself. That's all due to this sin stuff. But at the same time, God is working a new reality in me that also goes beyond anything that I could ever expect. So I would never expect that God would love me when I'm most unlovable. Like I would never expect that God would still desire to have me when I continue to reject him and turn away from him and seek other things. Like I would never expect that Jesus would eventually, raise me from the dead and give me eternal life and this glorious future. Like I can't, like, in some ways I understand that by faith, but I can't like fathom it in my own imagination what all of that is. So we just need to remember God's promises to us and what he's accomplished through Christ, knowing that stuff is as real as the fact that I'm holding a mug right now. The resurrection from the dead, forgiveness, life, all of that is just as real as me holding a mug or your snowblower being frustrating. Right. It's that. Right. So and we receive all of that by faith, for sure. But so I guess maybe just kind of wrapping things up, like I like to think of it too, like when my reality is not matching my expectations, that's actually when God is also working unexpected things in me, and doing, like, he's doing things beyond whatever I could ask or imagine. Yeah. And so I think we can cling to those promises and find contentment where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And to know that every little death along the way, right? Like, snowblower crapping out on me, it's a little death, right? Yeah. Like all of these things. I mean, we have that sense in ourselves of this isn't the way it should be. Things should be better. In the resurrection, all of those disappointments, deaths, broken, every single one. It's not that they're just going to go away. Yeah. They're going to be resurrected. Yeah. So like all of the hurt that I experience is gonna swing back the other way, into glory, right? Yeah. And so that too, in your sermon, I love that part of your sermon where you were saying, we have this idea about eternity and the resurrection, and that is going to be so much beyond. You say how God he goes and does unexpected things, or it's not according to our expectations, but so in a positive way. Yeah, and that's that eternal reality. That is ours. That is as firm and probably even firmer than me holding this water bottle. I'll drop
for
it.
Sure. For sure.
So yeah,
awesome. Well, to you, our friends who tune in each week, we thank you, and we thank you for the positive feedback, for how this conversation flushes out the way that you guys are thinking about these things. And so it's just our ongoing prayer that what you hear us speak about doesn't just stay with you, but then you take a little nugget of that and start another conversation with somebody else, and see how God blesses those conversations as well. So our prayers are with you as you go and engage in faith conversations. So Kevin, as always, man, it was good to be with you here today.
Better than expected.
Ooh, nice.